Hello and welcome to this week's MTV, where we look at the second installment of the word peace. Last week we talked about being anxious for nothing. This week I want to add the next portion of that verse in Philippians 4 verse 6, where it says, "Be anxious for nothing, but instead pray about everything with prayer and supplication and with thanksgiving, making those requests known to God." That's where I want to focus this week. So it says pray about everything. That word pray is exactly as you might expect. It's talking to God about the things that are on your mind. So pray about everything. And then it says with petition or supplication, depending on the version of the Bible that you might be looking at. And that literally means need or want or seeking or asking. So you're specifically asking or seeking God about a specific thing. And then it says with thanksgiving. We are to be thankful for what is happening in our life, be it good or bad or hard or sad or challenging. When we approach it with thanksgiving, then our mindset is in a much better place to perceive it and to work through it more productively. You know, I had stated a couple of weeks ago when I talked about the word serve that it's difficult to be thankful and mad at the same time. So oftentimes what happens when we're faced with a challenging circumstance, when we are thankful, what that does is it helps us to hold off or push back those feelings of anger or resentment or discontentment or discouragement, because we begin to look at the things about which we can be thankful in those circumstances. So it's important that we're thankful, because then out of our thankfulness, we are able then to take the things that concern us, those things that might cause us anxiety, to God in prayer. So we're praying about everything with petition and supplication, with thanksgiving, and then it says, present your requests to God. You know, that word present means to be made known. When I think about presenting something, I think that I've thought it through, I've prepared, and then I offer it, I present it. In the case here with you, I'm presenting this week's MTV. When we go before God and we're praying, then we're going to present to Him our request. So we've thought it through. We're going to talk it through with God. I find that very helpful. Sometimes I might not have exactly what it is that I need to ask or even what I want to say, but it's in praying, as I'm talking it through with God, I begin to gain clarity. It helps me to maybe better understand, to be able to set aside those things that give me anxiety and look at what God is doing. So it's important to think it through and also to talk it through. And then I want to encourage you to be specific when you pray. Don't pray in generality, but pray specifically about what you want God to do and how you want Him to work on your behalf. And by the way, I find that praying aloud, obviously when I'm by myself, it's helpful to me to hear what is coming out of my mouth. Sometimes when I pray aloud, I think, oh, did I just say that? So I want to encourage you that when it's appropriate, there are a lot of benefits to praying aloud. I want to give you an example of actually going through this process of you've chosen to not be anxious for anything, but instead you're going to pray about everything. So 2 weeks ago, I get a call from the property manager who manages the property where Fred and I and the boys live in Texas. And the short story of it is, due to an additional increase beyond what we had already agreed in our rent, Fred and I came to the conclusion that we were going to have to move because that was outside of our budget. And so we sent the notification that we were going to move, and then we immediately began looking for other homes in the school district where our boys would be going to middle school next year, so they did not have to move. And it was a whirlwind. I get boxes from a friend. The next morning, I'm driving 2.5 hours to every single neighborhood that feeds the school. I'm looking for homes. We find one that potentially works. I just feel like there's so many things out of my control. And so, by the way, I want to say that the night of this whole thing kind of coming to pass, as a family, we prayed very specifically, God, we want to be able to stay in this school district so the boys do not have to change schools. Help us to find a house that would allow us to do that. We were very specific in our prayer. And I found one that would work. Fred wasn't totally excited about it because, the backyard was small. For you men watching this, you can appreciate that. And, but I come home and we're trying to really not move too quickly to give God a chance to really speak to us in the circumstances. So what do? Because I'm feeling so out of control, I do something that is within my control, and I start packing boxes. I take down every picture, every single piece of wall decor. By the time 7 o'clock on Thursday, this is, basically a little over 24 hours after we've decided we're going to have to move, I've packed 5 boxes. 5, count them up, 5 large U-Haul boxes. And I get a call at 7:20 from the owner of the home. The short story of it is they don't want us to have to move. They think we're great tenants, and they ask us to counteroffer, which we do. They accept more than what we wanted, less than what they wanted, but God made a way for us to not have to move and for the boys to stay at their school. And then I paused and I thought, I packed those boxes without praying about that. Why? Because I was feeling so out of control. It was the one thing that I could control. And this is where this particular portion of this lesson really became crystal clear to me. Be anxious for nothing, Elizabeth. Be anxious. Don't be anxious about having to move or the boys switching schools, but pray about everything. Not only the where you would live and the boys being able to stay at their school, but pray about whether or not to pack. Because the next 2 days were spent unpacking those 5 boxes and figuring out where I was going to put things back, some in the same place, some in a different place. You see, when we choose to be anxious for nothing and we instead pray about everything, we do it with making requests and we're thankful and we present that to God, then we are able to enjoy peace. And so this week, I want to encourage you, choose to pray about everything and give God an opportunity to answer you before you're so quick to just take control to make yourself feel better like I did. And meet me back here next week as I finish this series up on how peace is going to guard your heart and mind. Have a great week.